And weather reports from Al Rourke. If you're not from the Tribero, story settled. Oh my goodness. That's one thing we got to start doing here. We got to start doing backspins. Spin the block, because some rap albums, a lot of people was like, yo, where was I at when this dropped? I didn't even know this was out. And yeah, so we getting ready to get crazy, man. Backspin. You heard it here first. You heard it here first. That's what we getting ready to do. Backspins. If you've been rocking with us, we talked about Coach Jake Diebler, Ohio State basketball, how he has high expectations and he's not going to lower his goals. Doesn't matter if he's year 1 or year 21. He's still going to go hard and he's going to chase that championship hardware. You got to respect it. You got to respect it. Then we switched lanes. We talked some college football, Fresno State. We talked about Coach Tedford, him stepping down for health reasons, covered in Football Scoop. We went over that. Our hearts go out to him and his family, supporting him in his next walk. Hopefully, we'll know who the coach of Fresno State will be before opening day. We'll go ahead and get into that. But we're going to stay in college football, and we're going to go from the West Coast to Indiana, South Bend. When we get to looking at this story in SB Nation, Joshua Vowles, now he's a Notre Dame fan, and he's got 3 expectations for Notre Dame football in 2024. Is he delusional or is he spot on? You all know, it's well documented on our channel. We were looking at Notre Dame and saying, hey, look, Notre Dame is playing no games. They are playing no games out here by any stretch of the imagination. The Notre Dame Fighting Irish. They have a great class coming in. They've got some athletes, freakish athletes out there. And I look at them, I said as much as, hey, look, they're going to the college playoff. Joshua agrees with me. Now, Joshua's a Golden Domer through and through. So these are his words, Catholics. They're not mine. And he has concerns over the O-line, saying, and I quote, one of my biggest fears for the season comes in game 1. There is some uncertainty with the position group that Notre Dame needs to hang its hat on every season. The offensive line saw departures of tackles Joe Alt and Blake Fisher to the NFL, along with the transfer of center Zeke Correll. While good talent will take their places, and one of the biggest strengths of the Texas A&M Aggies will be their defense, front and a Mike Elko shoe up their ass. I don't expect failure, but I do expect a long, tough day in the trenches, and one that will keep this game very close, end quote. How do you feel about that? That is a valid concern. I can't sit here and paint you a picture that is not that he's just really pulling stuff out of his ass or pulling a rabbit out of his hat. He's got a point. And you have talent, but this bunch, they'll line up against A&M and they'll be seasoned and they'll be ready to make, like I said, they're ready for the smoke. But by that same point, Val, he had something else to say. Vowles, he had a lot to say, but he had something else to say that we felt like was a head scratcher. We'll get into that and many more when we come back from a quick 20 from a rap album we seem to be promoting this month. This is Big Vern. Drop the spot. Lupe Fiasco, Samurai, in stores now. Get it where you legally consume music, whether it be Apple Music, Spotify, or Google Play. Samurai. The favorites on this track for me is the entitled track Samurai, Mumble Rap, Cake, Number One Headband. I mean, I can listen to Lupe just break it down and spit bars all day long. This is dope. Samurai, Lupe Fiasco, in stores now. Going back to the piece here in SB Nation from Joshua, he also said something that was very interesting. He said, I expect Notre Dame to go 12-0 this season. Do you think that they can run the table at 12-0? Honestly, 12-0. Come on now. 12-0. It's just like, what are we talking about here? Are we suspending reality? Let's look at this. Let's look at this objectively, okay? Notre Dame, they play opening day. They have the Texas A&M Aggies, August the 31st. They'll beat them. Northern Illinois, they'll beat them. Purdue, they will beat them. They should beat them. Miami of Ohio, they should beat them. The test that they have on their schedule, Louisville will be in South Bend. Jeff Brom has made Louisville really a buzz because Louisville was playing in the ACC championship game last year, and Louisville beat Notre Dame last year. So now Notre Dame's got a chance to get some get back. And this could be one of those games that derails these teams. Either one of these teams, a L would derail that season. So I got to go ahead and throw a question mark on that one. And that's September the 28th. That's one you want to keep your eye on. Stanford, they should beat Stanford. There's nothing there. Georgia Tech plays an up-tempo style football game. Don't sleep on Georgia Tech because it's Georgia Tech. These guys air the ball out and they put points on the board. So that one, I think Notre Dame should have no problem winning that one, but I could see where some people would like, Navy, they always beat Navy. Florida State? Jeff Norvell is the ACC reigning and defending champion. Even though that game's in South Bend, I think Norvell has a knack for winning. He just knows how to win. And I think the Golden Domers don't overlook Florida State. That could be one that gets away from you. USC, that's at the end of the year. Army, you have no problem beating Army. You don't have no problem beating Virginia. Those are games that I expect you to win hands down. I expect you to win those hands down. So the games that you want to look out for, SC, which is in Cali, Florida State, that's a home game, and Louisville, that's a home game, and Texas A&M. So that's their strength of schedule next year. And that's the bad ones that hurt you are the Miami of Ohio, especially when they've expanded this college football playoff. And I know Joshua vows being a Golden Domer fan. You can look at this schedule and say, we'll run through them. I'm a person who sees this thing 50-50. And I'm telling you, if Louisville beats you again, you have a full-blown rivalry on your hands. If Louisville beats Notre Dame in South Bend, because Jeff Brom can pull it off. Remember, Jeff Brom was doing that in the Big Ten when he was coaching at Purdue, picking these teams off that were picked to beat him and somehow miraculously pulling off a win. And Jeff Brom is very big in the portal, and he turned Louisville football around in a matter of weeks. So this thing can get ugly for the Irish if they underestimate Louisville. You can't underestimate Florida State. Them two played each other in the ACC championship game. They played each other in the ACC championship game. And so, like I said, take from it whatever you will. Sleep on Louisville if you want. Louisville will beat you. Mike Norvell will beat you. Those games are at home. And then at SC on the road. I mean, Georgia Tech is not a world beater. They just put up points. And, just because it's Georgia Tech, you can't thumb your nose at them. You can't thumb your nose at them. So I see where he looks at it and says, hey, look, that's we're gonna go 12-0. We're gonna run the gauntlet. I don't think so. But then he looks at the college playoff picture, and he starts to paint these scenarios, and he said, I expect a battle for the 5th seed. So he's already given them a 5th seed in the college playoffs. Before you hand wink that away, there are several scenarios that I can see being an issue, like the 12-1 SEC runner-up, for example. Notre Dame's schedule could be weak and become a real issue at that point, because there's a difference between a 5 seed and a 6 seed. And that could very well be the difference between playing Ole Miss instead of Air Force. End quote. And he's got a point to some degree, I feel, in that, because the old con job is that they kept saying that you would get the champions from the Power 5 conferences and they would play each other, and then you would have one national champion. Well, then when that backfired and you couldn't get all these SEC teams in the college playoff, then it became the most deserving. And we watched them lie to us and start affiliating people who had nothing to do with college football, like Condoleezza Rice. Why was she even on the committee to begin with? I'm just like, you never played, you don't play, you don't even have a son or a husband that coached or even been affiliated. Why are you here? And then it became the most deserving. And then what kills me is that the SEC, they have the weakest out-of-conference schedule games. They'll try and schedule a name or somebody so they don't have to deal with the appearance of we're not playing anybody. And then they'll play people down the road. And it's just like, okay, we'll deal with that. And that scam got exposed when they had Charlie Strong at Louisville and they played Florida in a bowl game. And they was like, oh, Florida, they're disappointed. The narrative at that time, they didn't give Louisville a shot in hell. And Teddy Bridgewater was the quarterback at that time. Him and Devontae Parker, they was the 1-2 punch. And they showed up and they beat the brakes off Florida. And then they were saying they was cutting excuses the entire time, talking about Florida. They didn't, they were heartbroken. They didn't make the national championship, so they didn't even play. They didn't try and play. No, they came, they saw, they got their ass whooped. And then everybody seen it on national TV. So then it became this thing where they wanted to try and get 2 SEC teams in there. But you told us that if you didn't win your conference championship, you couldn't be there. Again, it's always moving the goalpost. And it really boiled down to money. How these teams travel, these teams with these big fan bases, they would put them in these bowl games, and everybody's got a bowl game. It's almost like the bowls before Christmas mean something. They don't mean anything. The bowls after Christmas. Look, stop running the scam that it's about kids and they'll miss these finals. No, it was the SEC wanting to hold on their grip to power. And then when it didn't work and it failed miraculously, now we're in a playoff system because they want to put even more teams in there. And they want to make sure that they get the best 4 teams from that conference to be in a playoff, so then you can actually have more of those teams meet each other at the end of the season. And like I told you, this was the best football conference, blah, 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 blah. And it's not. And it's not. Like I said, they run that scam where they'll play Helen Keller University or Anne Frank Tech and beat those guys. And then it's like, okay, so now we get to play each other. And then we get to lose to each other. And then somehow we'll all wind up in the national championship game. Because, see, that was the hustle that they was running. You can't tell me Kirby Smart, who used to coach for Nick Saban, he goes to Georgia, and then Alabama's having the worst year that they could possibly have. They almost got beat by Miami of Ohio or FIU somewhere. They almost lost to them. But then you get in the SEC championship game, and then you lose to Alabama. and then you were thinking that you were going to get in. But they didn't put you in. They leapfrogged Florida State and made a place for Alabama, who lost again. And then you had the Mercedes dealership king, Nick. I can't coach these guys because now they're leaving and they can go anywhere. And now everybody's got the same amount of talent. Saban started cutting excuses, even took his song and dance and his pony show to Congress and bothered those good folks because you can't win at that level. Win. He's got a point. That's all I'm gonna say. I can do this blindfolded. But Golden Domers, Catholics, get in here. Tell me what you think. Do you think you all go 12-0? Do you think you go 12-0? Do you think you get that 5 seed in the playoff?